feel paralyzed.
Guys, what is up? Max in a Wonderlands video, and today we're going over Brr-Blade. This is a Brr-Zerker-Spore Warden build that does absolutely insane damage in Dreadwind. In fact, it might be my fastest boss killer just spinning around in this Cyclone, which I did not think was going to be possible. So I want to break down everything you guys need to know about this interaction and this build. I hope you guys enjoy the video. If you do, be sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe on that, guys. Let's get right into it. So we're going to start with the mechanic of this build, and then we'll get into the specific equipment and skill tree. So the way that this build works is we are using Blast Chill. Now, Blast Chill reads that when we deal melee damage, we have a chance to proc a Frost ability Nova. And in Dreadwind, every time that we hit an enemy, we're going to deal melee damage, and that melee damage has a chance to proc Blast Chill. So that's kind of the core of what's happening here. Every time that I hit an enemy with this, I have a chance of proccing Blast Chill, and because I'm hitting multiple melee attacks per second with this, even though this is only a 20% chance, I'm going to be proccing Blast Chill a lot. Now, Blast Chill double dips. There are a few skills that double dip in Wonderlands. Blast Chill is one of them. What does double dipping mean, Moxie? Double dipping means that it's getting my damage bonuses twice, basically. So, for example, if I am rocking the enchant, gain plus 50% damage when using Feral Surge or Dreadwind against bosses and badasses, that is a global damage multiplier, and it's going to increase the damage of my Dreadwind. Dreadwind is going to get 50% increased damage there. My melee attacks are going to get 50% damage. Blast Chill scales off of the damage that I deal. So now I've got a Blast Chill that's hitting for 50% more. However, when Blast Chill procs, it grabs this bonus again. So I'm scaling Blast Chill off of an increase, and then when Blast Chill procs, it gets the increase again. And when we have a double dipping skill, if we smartly align things that will give it increases to double dip, what's happening is Blast Chill, when it procs, is hitting for millions and millions of damage. I've seen this hit for 2 million, 3 million. It is disgusting. And our rest of our gear and our build is here to complement basically Dreadwinding to Blast Chill as much as possible, and when we do Blast Chill, to hit as much damage as we possibly can. So for the specific gear, I'm using a Banshee of Cleaving. Note, I do not have a better version of this. You could do even more damage than I am doing if you can get a Chaotic or a Volatile Banshee. I do recommend Cryo. I noticed when I didn't have it in Cryo, it did less damage because your Whirlwind or your Dreadwind takes on the element of your weapon. So if you have a fire weapon, it's going to do fire damage. And because we're a Berserker, we just have a lot of synergies with Cryo. So try to get a Cryo Banshee weapon if you're going to try to do this. That looks really weird. Huh. Another UI bug. Rings, I'm using the Ring of the Surgeon's Eye for bonus melee damage. I've got another ring with melee damage, ability critical hit damage, ability critical hit chance. That doesn't really matter, I don't think, because it can't critical hit, but it's the ring I got, and it's more melee damage. Next up, we've got the Cursed Wit. This is super important. The Blast Chill will double dip in this damage increase because it's going to register the melee damage and the Blast Chill both being within 100, or being close and giving that 100% damage increase. The class mod I'm using is the Paradigm. Paradigms are probably the strongest class mod in the game right now. If you did not know, there are ways to convert damage, and I am scaling a ton of melee damage, and that melee damage is being changed into ability damage. So when I grab a bunch of melee damage increases, such as Savagery, that melee damage increase is going to be turning into ability damage, and Blast Chill is ability damage. So basically the goal is grab a bunch of melee damage things, and then by grabbing melee things, we're going to increase Blast Chill. I am using a Buffmeister with Bonk and Ka-Chow. Bonk is going to increase your melee damage, and Ka-Chow increases your ability damage. Different Buffmeisters come with different roles on them. For example, if you get a Buffmeister with Pew, it increases your fire rate even more. So just note that the God roll Buffmeister, technically for this, is Bonk and Ka-Chow. Next up, we've got a Raging Moonstone of the Holy Warrior. I don't have exactly what I'm looking for, legendary-wise. Maybe the Urge legendary amulet would be good here, but I'm just using frost damage and berserker power with all damage dealt, and I have some loot luck here. And then the pistol that I'm using, it really like ideally I would take a liquid cooling, because liquid cooling rolls with plus 25 melee damage, and put this enchant on it, but I'm lazy, so I haven't re-rolled. I'm just using a purple pistol with increased frost damage by 50%. Just any weapon that you can have that increases your frost damage. It does not work with the live wire. It should work with like a bladed weapon, so technically I would have even more damage if I put this frost damage enchant onto this liquid cooling, but I haven't done that yet. But yeah, so my enchants are plus 50% damage when using Feral Surge or Dreadwind. This is the same kind of global damage as increasing the Cursed Wit, plus I'm getting 100% damage from the Cursed Wit, plus I'm getting on spellcast increased damage dealt by 15% for 10 seconds. The reason that I'm doing global damage increases here, because you could put, like, for example, on action still dart increased melee damage. While this is nice, the blast chill will get the global damage increases. It will not get the increased melee damage, meaning it will only single dip in melee damage increases off of the melee it procs, but it will double dip in global damage increases, like on spellcast increased damage dealt by 15%. So that is how I'm able to do that much damage. Lastly, for our skill tree and hero points, I went Spore Warden, and the reason I went Spore Warden is for Wrath of Nature. I've messed around with this a bunch. I tried Stabbo Berserker. I thought Stabbo Berserker would be better, but Wrath of Nature, we're kind of double dipping the skill that already double dips with Wrath of Nature with Blast Chill, meaning that I'm going to be proccing this ability damage, and when so like the first Blast Chill won't really do anything, but the second one and the third one are starting to hit ridiculous damage, because Wrath of Nature is going to give us a 108% damage increase against enemies. So my skill tree, I'm basically grabbing melee damage, frost damage, damage dealt to enemies that are slowed, bonus damage, lower shield. I grabbed a little bit of area damage because the Frost Nova does area damage, and this was just a skill point here. And then in our Spore Warden, we're getting action skill cooldown rate, ability damage, which is huge, taunt, save your soul, and movement speed, which is really nice. Now, the reason that this build video is a little bit different than some of my other build videos is just because this build doesn't work on like that many enemies. There's a lot of enemies that are flying that this doesn't work against. There's a lot of, like, for example, some of the secret bosses in the chaos chambers, like, for some reason don't interact with the hitbox of this, so like you can't actually hit them with Dreadwind, which is extremely like frustrating. But for those of you that want to mess around with a super cool interaction and just absolutely shred bosses that this build works with, and in the Chaos Chambers, this build works very well. It just does gross damage. I will show you a quick skill tree for mobbing real quick, but let's do our hero points. So for the hero points, I actually spec them all into skill cooldown and spell cooldown, mainly because I want my skill and my spell to be up as much as possible, because we want that buff meister and we want our skill cooldown, and then the rest I put into crit damage, and I'm trying to grab as much Berserker power for increased Dreadwind damage, increased Blast Chill damage, and increased bonus Frost damage. Berserker power is the most important thing you could get here. I did not get my class mod with Berserker power primary, but I did get some Berserker power extra here. Lastly, for like an alternative spec, if you wanted to have a little bit more survivability and use this a little bit more mobbing wise, you could still go Brr-Zerker-Spore Warden, but you could actually go Berserker Capstone, and if you're wearing a class mod that gives you +3 into Wrath of Nature, you don't actually have to make it all the way down to Wrath of Nature. So you could just grab action skill cooldown rate and ability damage, and I'm going to grab Medicinal Mushroom and the movement speed, and then I've got additional points here, which you could spend however. Melee and like attack speed and fire rate is interesting, but I think the best use of this is the max health area damage, and we grab Blood Frenzy. This is going to be a little bit better for mobbing and running Chaos Chambers if you want to run through Chaos Chambers with this build, but it's just going to be more damage when you can get 6 out of 3 Wrath of Nature. Once again, I do get 3 points into Wrath of Nature just by specking this, but I found it to just do a little bit less damage against bosses without Wrath of Nature. Guys, that is going to do it for the build video. I just wanted to make this quickly because I have so many builds and things I want to show you guys, but I hope you guys enjoy this because it is one of the craziest, highest damage things that I've done in this game, and it's really cool that it works with Dreadwind, which, as a PoE Cyclone main, this build makes me very happy. All right, guys, I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Peace.